steering committee members for this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a very interesting and valuable keynote address. I feel really privileged and honored to be inviting Mr. Dhananjay Tambe, Deputy Managing Director and Chief Information Officer of State Bank of India, the largest bank in India and a true global leader. I'm also fortunate in many ways because this is not the first time I'm sharing stage with Mr. Tambe. I've had the privilege of doing that on previous occasions, of course, for physical events. So I feel really honored doing this today. Tambe sir is no stranger to the BFSI community. He's a distinguished career banker and has held several important positions in his career. However, it will be a pleasure for me to read a few lines about DMD sir before he starts his engagement with our participants. I'll be very brief. I'll give the speaker more time, I promise you. Shri Tambe started his career in 1985 as a probationary officer in Corporation Bank. And in 2015, much later, he was elevated to the rank of Chief General Manager and was posted as Chief General Manager IT Operations of the bank at the Global IT Center at Belapur, where his vertical handled many other aspects, including that of financial inclusion, government payment systems, back office operations of the core banking system, pension payment systems, complaint management systems, and so on. From August 2016 till August 2000, April 2018, Mr. Tambe was the Chief General Manager of IT Transformation, Collaboration and Marketing, and is responsible for the innovations, social media, project management, marketing of IT products, etc. Since May 2018, he has been elevated to the post of Deputy Managing Director and Chief Information Officer. I will now mute my video and the audio, and it is all over now to Shri Tambe. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Devi Shankar, for your kind words. And let me share my presentation. Okay, so, and I hope you're able to see my presentation. Am I right? Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, sir, very much.
Yes, we can.
And the sound quality is fine, right?
Absolutely
Yes.
fine. Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. So, thank you very much for this opportunity, for inviting me here for sharing my views. And the topic that was given to me was digital banking challenges, complexities, and opportunities. So, let's first start with looking at the ecosystem. Where are we today? And when I say we, I mean the country as a whole. As far as digital banking is concerned, where are we? So we are fairly well placed, you know. I mean, 1.2 billion people using Aadhaar, app downloads of 7.7 billion, 1.2 billion people with mobile phone subscription, out of which about 468 million have got smartphones, 525 million have got internet subscription. So the ecosystem, if you look at it, it's all ready, you know. So but let's see what has been the trend in digital banking so far, right, or in recent times. So I'll just give you some data points. It's something very interesting to see where the country is going as far as adoption is concerned. So as far as the traditional ways of making payments is concerned, digital banking, when we said, so there are essentially largely concerns payments. So as far as the traditional methods are concerned, look at this graph. This is a graph of check truncation system. I hope everyone is aware that the checks that are now cleared are cleared in the digital mode, right? That is in the image mode. That's called the check truncation system. This is a graph from 2012-13 onwards, and you will find that the usage of checks in the country had peaked at around 2017-18 to 2018-19. But since then, it has been declining steadily, and this is a very good sign. This is a monthly trend of the same graph that you saw. And of course, this red arrow points to the onset of the COVID lockdown. But there is a very healthy sign here, and that is that usage of checks is on the decline. Uh, on the this is a graph of ATM cash withdrawal. Okay. And on ATM cash withdrawal also you'll find that there has been a decline. In fact, the blue arrow that you see, that is the arrow which reflects demonetization, right? And as you can see that the immediate impact of demonetization was that the ATM cash withdrawal went down. But very fortunately for the country, it has not picked up. Cash withdrawal from ATM has not picked up, which is a very good sign, which means people are moving away to the digital channels. And both on the left hand side, you see the number of transactions, on the right hand side, you see the amount of the transaction. And both ways you will find, although the amount, there was a little bit of an uptick in the amount, but the number of transactions has gone down, and it is in the current year also. That's the annualized figure that you see. In the current year also, the number of transactions is going down, and this is of course the monthly trend of cash withdrawals from ATM, where again we can see that the trend is on the downward side, which is a good sign for us. But on the other hand, so while people are relying less upon cash, less upon checks as the method or mode of making payment, what are they shifting to? So this is the figure of National Automated Clearing House. So just for the benefit of the audience, NACH is that system which enables one bank to credit or debit another bank. So in bulk, right? So when you give a mandate to your bank, so suppose you have taken a housing loan from a particular bank, but your account is in another bank, your savings account is in another bank, and you want that your installment in the other bank should be recovered from the other bank, then you give a NACH mandate to the bank from where you have taken a loan, and that bank then debits every month the EMIs from the other bank. That's called NACH. And you will find that the NACH, which till about 2018-19 was not showing much of an upward trend, has suddenly picked up from the last year. And this year also it has been showing a very good growth, which means that Indians adopting to the digital ways of making payment is going up. And again, the best part of it is that during the COVID times, this mode of making payment has actually shot up. People have actually used more of the NACH mode of making payment, which is again a very good sign. Then there is something called NETC Fast Tag, that is a National Electronic Toll Collection. Those of you who have been using the national highways, you'll find that at many places you have this mode of toll collection, right? So it's called Fast Tag. So you have to have that Fast Tag sticker on your windscreen, and then you can just pass from the toll gate without having to pay the charge at the counter. Of course, charge is debited from your account, and this is something which has again picked up very well. So the electronic mode of paying has picked up very well, and this is something which is very interesting. This graph is the monthly trend of the NETC transactions, and you will find something very interesting. Now here the blue arrow shows. Blue arrow is actually the inflection point. So up to November 2019, you will observe that there has been a steadiness, or there has been more or less a flat growth in NETC transactions. But post that, there has been a very rapid growth, and that is because the government made it mandatory that at certain toll plazas, the payment will be taken only through the NETC. And that is why, because of the government diktat around it, there has been a sudden increase in the usage of NETC FASTag. But of course, during the Corona times, the red arrow is the Corona times. It has come down, but it has. I mean, essentially, Indians will pick up electronic ways of making payments if they are compelled to do so. So this is one of the finest examples of that. That if there is a government mandate towards making electronic payments, then the people in the country will actually shift towards it. And you can see here that the numbers actually shot up by almost 4 times once the NETC was made mandatory. And the best growth that we have seen, and this is something where there has been no compulsion and no government diktat around it, is in the UPI, the Unified Payment Interface, which is run by NPCI. Here you will find that there has been a remarkable growth. In 2016-17, that was the starting point of UPI. The number of transactions was only 0.43 crore, which has shot up to 427 crore in the current year. A remarkable increase, in the number, almost 1,000 times increase in the number of transactions. So this is because of a great deal of convenience that UPI brings because of the four-party model that was adopted when UPI was introduced in the country, which effectively means that you can use the app of any bank and your account could be in any other bank. And this is, of course, the monthly trend. Again, you will find something very interesting. In the previous ones, you found that the dip during the Corona lockdown was very, very severe. But in case of UPI, the dip has been there, but hasn't been as severe, which means people continue to use this as the mode of payment, which means the ecosystem is now ready, and so are the opportunities, which means India is actually moving towards adopting to the digital way of doing things, and the enablers are also in place. Some of the additional enablers which are not related to payments directly are eKYC. eKYC means you can go to the, if you want to open a new account, you go to the branch and you can give your Aadhaar number and your biometric, and using that your account can be opened. This can also be used for authenticating the documents, or it can be used for e-signing of documents. So this e-signing of documents is something which is coming of vogue only in recent times. But if it becomes popular, then this is something which can really change the way we sign the documents, and it will enable digital execution of documents, which is very, very important if we want that more and more of the products should become available in a digital mode. And of course, then DigiLocker is something, which again is finding good amount of traction. Documents can be stored here, and documents can also be got directly from the sources into your digital locker, and it can then be shared. Now, during this Corona times, we did conduct a survey, and to find out as to would the customers continue with their digital behavior. I mean, there has been a shift to digital during the Corona times. It has been accelerated, but will they continue to follow the digital mode of doing things? And we found that 52% of the respondents said that they will continue to use the net banking method of paying bills, etc. And 45% said that they will continue to use the mobile banking way of making payments. And and as far as the branch way of making payments is concerned, or making transactions is concerned, the people 11%, there was an 11% decline. 11% of the people said that they will actually not go to the branch for making any transactions, which means that there has been a decisive shift. So if at all there is to be a silver lining to this COVID cloud, the only silver lining we can say is that this has accelerated the shift to digital way of doing things. Now, so the environment is all ready, the enablers are there, the environment is ready, the ecosystem is ready. So who will succeed in exploiting this? So for success in this new environment, there will be three key determinants. And what are those? The first determinant is the provision of access to the service using interfaces which are simple and intuitive to use. And why I'm saying this is because most of the people who use these interfaces, and when I say interface, I mean it's either browser interface or a mobile app interface. See, most of these people, they are not very tech savvy people. So unless the interfaces are very simple to use, and the best example of that is WhatsApp. So WhatsApp has become so popular only because of the simplicity and intuitiveness of its interface. So this is the first thing, that banks or any other organization which wants to become digital, it has to have interfaces for its end users which are simple and intuitive and reliable and available. So this is the other thing. If I'll use your services only if your services are available all the time when I need them. Because if that is not available, then I have a tendency not to rely upon your service. I can move over to another service. And this is especially true when we see the UPI services, because people tend to use those apps in UPI which are more reliable. And end-to-end digital experience. So this is again something which is important. People want that, if those people who are digital natives, now they want an end-to-end digital experience. They do not want that part of the experience should be digital, but for remaining part, you would ask them to come to the branch. So this is again something which is very important, and it should fulfill all the needs of the consumers. The second important thing that people will have to keep in mind is that how to create product differentiation. Because ultimately, in case of banking products do not appeal to the senses. That means they do not appeal to the sense of sight or hearing or smell or touch. This is basically debit credit balance. This is just plain money, and the intrinsic value of money is the printed value of the money, right? So therefore, given the fact that product differentiation in case of banking is very, very difficult, but nonetheless it will have to be done, and the only way to do it is to be using analytics, and your analytics has to be AI ML powered, for the reason that most banks will have a massive amount of data, and if insights have to be drawn into this data and sense has to be made from this data, then without using AI ML it is not possible to do this. So if you use AI ML properly in your analytics, then you should be able to move to what is called prescriptive analytics. You should be able to tell the customer what is it that he should be doing. So at given his stage of life, given his level of income, given his other indicators around him, what is it that he should be doing? Should he be investing in mutual fund? If he should be investing in mutual fund, what kind of mutual funds should he be investing in? Should he buy a life insurance policy? Is this the right time for him to go for a home loan? If he should go for a home loan, what kind of a home loan? What should be typically the amount of home loan? All of this, can come as a prescription from the bank. And again, those banks which are able to do it well are the ones which will endear themselves to their customers. Similarly, the conversation with the banks, still there are people who want to talk to their bankers, but there, if you can use NLP, your natural language processing, if that can be used more and more, today it is possible that we can have near human like experiences even when we are talking to computers. So banks which adopt that will be able to serve their customers better, because such interfaces or such interactive voice response system, but not human voices, these systems will be available at scale, and therefore the wait time, which is typically the big problem as far as calling up a call center is concerned or a customer care center is concerned, that can be reduced dramatically. The third would be that there has to be a way by which most of your loans can be pre-assessed. Now, this is very important. The current methodology that we are all following is post-assessment. The person makes an application, and after that, we go ahead and do the processing of the loan. But what if we decide we process the loan beforehand, even before the consumer made an application, using all the data that we have? If we ourselves decide what are the loans that this customer is likely to take from us or could be eligible for, then we can make the offering to him proactively rather than his coming to us and our making the offering and making the assessment later on, which is typically a very time consuming thing. And the third and the fourth and the last thing to do in this category would be that the products and services that we give to the customers, they must be personalized, because without that, the customer is not going to see value in those, and that is where the differentiation will come. And the last is, of course, that while we do all of this, we cannot lose sight of security and risk, because ultimately banking is a trust based service. And unless the consumer has faith on the digital interfaces that we offer to him, he is not going to be using them. So while we have to be very, very mindful of the security posture that we have, at the same time, we have to ensure that security is given in as non-intrusive or unintrusive a way as possible, so that he is not put to any inconvenience. So to summarize, this is what is required to be done by all banks, that you have to have an end-to-end digital offering, that you need to use advanced analytics, that you need to cater to the entire life cycle of the customer, and finally personalized offering, the context specific offering is what is needed to be done. Now, what has the bank done, that is SBI, done in this regard? Well, in 2017 we launched a program called YONO, where all that I have told you, those were the key pillars of the digital strategy of the bank. So essentially through YONO we deliver a world class experience. Those of you who are our customers and who use YONO, you would know and will appreciate this fact that it's one app. In fact, the name itself is you only need one. It's an acronym for you only need one. That's one app which takes care of all your requirements, from financial services to online marketplace to digital banking. And that is where we believe that we have seen a very good traction, very good adoption, and very good stickiness. This is what the whole universe is all about. We started on the retail side, but we have expanded it to the agri side, so we call it agri. We have gone further to expand it to our foreign operations, which we call global. And we have further extended it to the non-individuals, that is to the businesses, and that is what we call global, business, right? And there also we are offering the all services under one umbrella. So this is something where we believe we have been able to add value to the customer. And one of the great success products, that I mean, there are a number of products, but some of the very very successful products that we have offered via one has been a PAPL. PAPL stands for pre-approved personal loan. I was giving you this example that analytics should be used in order to pre-assess the loans and make a proactive offering to the customer. So this is what we do, and this has been a super hit product. Super hit, I'm saying, because even during the corona times, this was the only product that was available to the bank, to the people, in order to avail a loan from the bank. So this became very very popular and continues to remain very popular. And a loan account is opened in a fully digital way. In You just have to, the moment you get the offer on your screen, you just have to say yes to the offer, and within the next 120 seconds the loan amount gets credited into your account. Then of course, insta opening of the accounts, fully digital insurance, so end to end digital insurance products, where you simply buy whatever insurance policies you want online. And then of course, this is something very innovative, cash. You can withdraw cash from the ATMs of State Bank of India without using an ATM card. Simply, there are two codes. One code which you input into your app, another code which is sent to you by SMS. Use both of the codes and you can withdraw money from the ATM. And of course, as I said, that is an all-encompassing app. It has got an online marketplace also. So this is what we have done. I mean, this is how digital banking will look like. This is what we have done, and we do believe that the future of banking lies entirely on the ability of the banks to adopt the digital mode and to heavily rely on analytics, which should be AI/ML based. So thank you very much, and I hope I have been able to keep my time. It's exactly 3:30.
Devi, I think you're speaking on a mute phone. Huh?
Can you hear me, please? Yeah. Thambi sir, thank you very much, sir. Thanks indeed. We wish to offer our sincere gratitude to you for having spared your valuable time to be here with us today and to have shared your immense knowledge, your hard-won insights with fellow BFSI professionals. You spoke about adding value to the customer by way of unique offerings, offering a world-class experience through digital products of the bank, and also catering to the beyond banking needs of all types of customers. And that was the highlight of your presentation, I think. You spoke about key challenges and the path ahead for institutions. So I think the 20 odd minutes that we gave you was really very less. But we have a power packed, we have a time packed day ahead. We have a very watertight compartment today. We wish we could have given you more time. But nevertheless, we really look forward to having more such serious deliberations and engagements with you, sir. Thank you very much. My delegates and the organizers join me in thanking you. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Devi.